usually progressist or leftist around the world, they are not very fair with the opponents. When some other politicians of other ideas criticize them, and when they run out of arguments, they use a simple cliché by defining the opponent as fascist. So usually you can see all around the world by newspapers or by the politicians, the leftist one, the use and abuse of the fascist idea. Why? Let me explain why. First, we will have to analyze how was the origin of fascism. Actually, fascism was born in Italy with the ideas of Benito Mussolini. But Benito Mussolini, before being a fascist, actually he was a socialist. So if we analyze socialists and fascists, they have a common denominator. They have a common characteristic. In both cases, they do not like the freedom of the people. So they tend to limit the freedom of the people because they consider that the government usually is more wise in comparison with their citizen. So in socialist countries as well in fascist country, you have the characteristic of less freedom than in liberal countries. So when you listen to a leftist politician and when he run out of arguments, usually they say, but that opponent is a fascist. Usually, or most of the time, the opponent is not a fascist. For example, Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, is a liberal not in the way is intended in the United States or maybe England, a libertarian. In the real way, it should be intended the word liberal. Liberal means somebody that believes that people should be let free of doing with their life what they want, in the way they want.
Yo soy liberal libertario.
Definime para los que somos burros en economía.
Mira, básicamente la mejor forma de entenderlo es compararlo contra la derecha y la izquierda, ¿no? Digamos, para que la gente comprenda más fácilmente. ¿Quién sería alguien de derecha? Alguien que es un liberal en lo económico, o sea, no le importa con quién vos comercializás, pero no acepta que vos te metas en la cama con cualquiera. La nueva izquierda, no la vieja izquierda, la nueva izquierda es liberal, sí, en lo cultural, porque te puedes meter con quién o quienes se te ocurra en la cama, pero es intervencionista en lo económico, o sea, no te deja comercializar con quien vos quieras. En el concepto del liberal libertario, estamos hablando del respeto irrestricto del proyecto de vida del prójimo, y como tal, vos, mientras que no le jodas la vida a nadie, podés hacer lo que quieras, comercializar con quien quieras, meterte en la cama con quien o quienes quieras, mientras que no jodas al otro, no pasa nada.
Without imposing restriction and constraints for part of the government. And the limitation exists with the freedom of other people. So your freedom ends in a liberal concept when you jeopardize the freedom of your neighbors in an extreme synthesis. So usually you have the leftist people that criticize somebody of that idea of being a fascist. For example, we have an example of Nicolas Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela, that he said that Javier Milei is of extreme right, a fascist, etc., etc., etc. But in fact, what do you think? If you are living in Venezuela today, you think Venezuela is a free society? You believe that in Venezuela you would be able to do whatever you want, or maybe you have some limitations in Venezuela because of the government? So, in extreme synthesis, when we analyze a liberal like Javier Milei in Argentina, liberal or libertarian, as you prefer, a liberal in the real sense of the word, and you compare him with Nicolas Maduro, what do you think? Who's the dictator? Who's the one with right-wing ideas? Maybe you will be surprised that if you compare Venezuela to some country run by extreme right-wing ideas of the past, I don't remember that there are many nowadays, you will be surprised that they are very similar. The way they treat their opponents is very similar. If you keep analyzing Venezuela, well, one of the allies of Venezuela is Iran, another free country. What do you think? You will live better in Argentina of Javier Milei, in the United States, or in Iran? Well, the answer is quite obvious. Iran, it is not a free society. And probably, despite of the speech of the Iranian politicians of being for the people, for the citizen, actually they are very limiting the freedom of the people and the citizens. And they have ideas that are more like the one of the fascism. So, when you listen to some left-wing politician, you always listen the same speech, the same ideas, that opponents are representing the extreme right. And obviously, that politician is always the savior of the journey, the one that will save the country from extreme right ideas. But what doesn't coincide with the truth is the fact that most of the time the opponents are not of extreme right, like in the case of Mr. Milei in Argentina. Thank you. I hope I have interested you with this presentation, and I'm looking forward to have you in my next one. Bye-bye.